through and through. Oh, the Toon Review. Laughs and passion, football too. We are the Toon Review. By the fans, for the fans, through and through. Laughs and passion, football too. We are the Toon Review. 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 Go!
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Toon Review for this morning's Breakfast Time show with myself, Paul. Thank you so much for tuning in. How are we all feeling after last night? So much better to wake up this morning, wasn't it? After a victory, it's absolutely fantastic to get that win last night, and the performance was really good as well. Eddie says it was good. It wasn't perfect, so we'll come on to what Eddie Howe had to say. And of course, we'll cover the game in much more detail tonight at 7 o'clock on the actual review show, when we will be obviously rating the players, etc. But that should be a walk in the park for us tonight, which not usually the case on the Toon Review when it comes to player ratings. There's always some kind of disagreement somewhere along the line. However, it is looking so much better for tonight after that performance. Obviously, there's news on Tino Livramento as well. Worst case scenario is it's going to be 8 weeks, which I think is, for me, a lot better than it could have been, because we were expecting reports of, possibly out for the season, etc. It's not going to be like that. So I think it's very, very positive news on Livramento. The thing is, with him being out for 8 weeks, that is going to put extra workload on Kieran Trippier. So whether Eddie's got anything up his sleeve to deal with that situation, I don't know, because he seems to be fully behind Dan Burn playing at left back. However, I do believe that once Lewis Hall is match fit, he's back in the side and he will stay in the side. And then we can all have this debate again over where he plays Dan Burn, or does he actually drop Dan Burn and leave Chow and Botman in the middle, who, by the way, last night, again, were absolutely fantastic. And they are undroppable at the moment, those two. So I really don't know what Eddie's going to do, but we'll just have to wait and see. Now, one thing that we all should do this morning, ladies and gentlemen, is say a very good morning to our little German friend in Munich, Karl-Heinz Rummenigge, because there's been a lot of memes pointed his way on social media after Voldemar scored again last night. He's very quiet this morning, guys. Not much has come from Munich about overpriced or anything like that. Listen, just what a marvellous goal that was. And everybody thought at first it was a deflection from Tonali's first-time shot. Tonali's shot was actually not very well hit. It was a mistimed shot, and I'm not sure it was actually going in when I've looked at it again and again. But Voldemar had just kept his eye on the ball, and a fantastic flick. Wrong foot in the goalkeeper, and Bob's your uncle. It's in the back of the net. But obviously, Tonali ran off celebrating the goal, and I don't think Voldemar had got the actual praise he deserved. But listen, it was just a wonderful, wonderful goal. Now, what there has been a bit of debate on this morning as well is the penalties and who should be taking them. Because Craig Hope reported that the second penalty last night, Voldemar wanted to take it, but obviously Anthony Gordon had been given the designated penalty taker job. So because he's designated penalty taker, he was in every right to take that. Now, listen, I don't know how Craig Pope could report that during the game, because I don't know how he knew that. But he put it out there on X. Whether it's right or wrong, I don't know. But I didn't really see Voldemar unhappy about that situation. He celebrated the goal with Anthony Gordon, who, by the way, took the two penalties really well. Moving forward, by all accounts, it looks like Anthony Gordon is going to be our designated penalty taker. So it won't be Voldemar or Wissa. If Gordon's in the side, Gordon will take the penalties. And look, last night did Anthony Gordon the world of good, because I think when he scored that penalty, you saw the belief return to him. You saw the belief in his eyes, and he had a fantastic second half. He was all over the place in the second half for a positive reason this time, not all over the place for the wrong reasons. He was in the right place at the right time, and he had a fantastic second half. But I think a lot of things came together last night, and it was just a joy to watch from start to finish. They had early chances with a few corners. We looked a bit shaky defending them, but after that, it was complete control, absolute complete control. And what I love about Eddie Howe's interview after the game is he said it was a good performance, but not perfect. We've still got things to work on. Now, that gives me Pep Guardiola vibes, because if you look at a couple of seasons, well, whenever actually Manchester City have a really good performance and they thump somebody, you see Pep on the sidelines and he's still going ballistic with players. He's still wanting the very best for them, and he still doesn't believe it was a perfect performance. And last night, Eddie's right, it wasn't a perfect performance. There was a few little things during the game that I'm sure the manager picked up on that they need to work on ahead of the Forest game. But I just think it's lovely for somebody like Eddie Howe to come out and say, hey, we want more. And as a fan, isn't that great? Isn't that great to hear your manager after a 4-0 win saying, we want to do more. We want to be better than we were. Because last night it all gelled. The passing was brilliant. The one-touch play was excellent. The movement was superb. But mainly what I loved yesterday was the interaction with Voltemade, because we've been talking for ages about needing to get him into the game and play to his strengths. And it was the first time that, Elanga and Voltemade had played together, and it worked for me, a dream. Because what Voltemade is good at is holding up that ball, and he drags players towards him and frees up the wingers. And it happened numerous times in the first half yesterday when he just played Elanga away. And I think that's basically what Newcastle need to do with Voltemade, and then he just turns and heads to the penalty area, and the rest is history. Now, whether we see that against Forest or whether we see that when Wissa's back, what is he going to do when Wissa's back? Obviously, I don't think he'll throw Wissa straight into the team because he's been out for a while. He'll need to work up his match fitness again. So don't expect when Newcastle turn around and say Wissa's fit, that he's going to be straight in the start 11, because that won't be the case. He will, as with all the players coming back from injury, Eddie will take his time. I don't understand the Lewis Hall one, which we'll come on to in a second. Adam, thank you very much for your super chat. Much appreciated. And Ian Fleming says, Paul, do you not read the media? It was not a flick, it was a deflection. Hey, I know. Listen, I've seen that a few times this morning. How the pundits can look at that and think, yeah, it was a deflection. You clearly see Voltemade watch the ball and time that flick to absolute precision. And it does make me laugh when you see some of them did say, oh, it was deflected off Voltemade. Absolute load of shit. However, I think the majority of the media have said that it was a very good goal. But what I put out on X last night, that if that was a Messi or Ronaldo goal, Sky and all the other, shows would be highlighting that for weeks. They'd be playing it at the top of the hour every hour for God knows how long. It was just it was an actual piece of brilliance. It really was. And we should be making more out of it, because it was an absolutely fantastic goal. And not enough is being made out of that, which is a real shame. The only question I have coming out of last night and coming out of the Arsenal game and moving forward is, what do we do with left-back situation? Because, again, it's, Eddie Howe and his favourites is rearing its ugly head again, as to speak. Dan Burn was caught quite a few times last night. He was caught against Arsenal a few times at left-back. And it does make you worry, because my worry is that the pace of the Premier League wingers now, and people refer back to, Dan Burn did okay when he was left back 2 years ago. That was 2 years ago, folks. 2 years ago. And he's 2 years older now and not as quick as he was, if he was ever quick. I mean, he was decent, but he's not as quick as some of the wingers in the Premier League. And last night he got caught out, certainly in the second half. Twice he got caught out. One was a little flick over the top of him, and he was beaten by the winger. The second one, he went too close to the winger, who just dummied the ball and spun round Dan Burn and disappeared into the sunset. And there was a few times that he got beaten for pace. But look, Dan Burn is a brilliant footballer for Newcastle United. I'm not arguing with that. I'm not saying he's a poor footballer. but he's not a left back. And I think over the games against Arsenal and certainly last night, I just hope that Eddie's maybe seen that. Now, obviously, Lewis Hall's apparently getting his minutes managed until he's back to full fitness. But how is he ever going to be match fit if he doesn't start games? He's got to be involved. He's got to be in there. And, Lewis Hall has got to start games. And then if he does struggle for fitness to get through the 90, then take him off. I agree with what Big Al says there. Burn looked knackered last night. There was once in the second half when he saw the ball out for a goal kick. And the cameras stayed on Dan Burn. And he was absolutely shattered. You could tell. But for some reason, Eddie doesn't bring him off. Which didn't really make much sense to me. Charlie, I have read me emails, matey. I know you've got some. I will be in touch. Don't worry. Just be patient, my man. You will get a reply. Martin says we can rotate really well when Wissa is back. Indeed. And that's what I'm looking forward to seeing. It'll give Eddie a big, big headache because I don't know which way he's going to go, because he admitted in his press conference the other week that he's that when he was asked about Voldemar, and he kept saying that Voldemar is not a 10, and Newcastle United don't play that way. Now, obviously, Eddie can turn around a couple of weeks later and say, we've looked at it and we are going to try something new to accommodate both of them in the side. I think at some point he will, but I don't think it will be. I don't think there'll be anything to the case where it'll be a regular thing playing them both. I don't think that'll happen. But when you've got somebody with the class and the quality of Voldemar, how on earth do you leave him out? He proved last night, and he's proved really since he signed, what a good footballer he is with the ball at his feet. Just because he's a big man, it doesn't mean that he can't play football and that he's not good with the ball at his feet. That move in the second half, 5 minutes into the second half, when he dispersed to 4 Union players to then feed the ball off to Elanga, was simply sensational piece of skill. And this is what this guy can do. And he can score goals as well. 3 goals for Newcastle now in all competitions. And I think he's just really going to get better and better the more he works under Eddie Howe. But Eddie is going to have a serious headache. And he's going to have a serious headache about the left-back position, because he cannot leave Chow and Botman out. He just can't. The way they're playing, I mean, they were absolutely superb again last night. And I've proven to everybody just what Newcastle United can be defensively. Another clean sheet last night. And were we really threatened a lot? A couple of times from corners and one half volley. But most of the shots for them, it came from outside the box, which Nick Pope pretty much dealt with very, very comfortably. So, yeah, it's... Listen, I don't have a single problem with the centre-backs, but obviously he will rotate at some point because, Chow and Botman aren't going to play every single game. But Malik Chow, he came in and a lot of people were questioning him. And, Alex highlighted him in a couple of transfer shows when he was first linked a season ago, and then, of course, in the summer. And he was, a lot of people were having the doubts about him. And I didn't really... have a problem with that, because the reports from Milan were that he'd struggled a little bit, that he wasn't really fitting in. But he's come to Newcastle. Yeah, you could say he had a little bit of a dodgy start against Liverpool, but that was his first game in the Premier League against the champions. So it's going to be difficult. It was a sort of throwing him straight into the fire kind of thing. But now you look at him and you think how accomplished he is on the ball. Sven Botman is a very similar player. And a right and left centre-backs who are very similar players with similar skills. That's fantastic. They're good at bringing the ball out. And they're good at passing the ball. They're good at defending. They just seem to have... And the more they play together, the more of an understanding they are going to get. Which is fantastic for us. And I think the doubts about Malik Chow have well and truly disappeared into the sunset now. I do believe that. It's absolutely great. Graham says, morning, buzzing after the result last night. How are the lads? Yes. Can I just say, I hope the fan that had that awful fall in Brussels last night makes a quick and full recovery. It sounds like a nasty accident. He fell from a statue. I watched Adam P's video last night, and he was standing in front of the statue where it happened, and it's quite a 10 or 12 foot drop. and he fell backwards and apparently was badly injured. So hopefully he's okay and he can make a full recovery. We don't like that. Apparently everything was really good. Well behaved in Brussels. You know, Adam's video last night, he didn't even have a ticket, but he went over. There was hundreds of fans didn't have tickets, but wanted to live that atmosphere again, like we've done in 2 years ago. Live the atmosphere of being out there, loving, enjoying it, taking in another city. And Brussels were fantastic hosts, as far as I could see. A couple of the pubs, you know, transformed the area to Newcastle United, black and white flags everywhere. And it was great. And just to soak that up. And it's an experience, I think, that everybody needs to have when you're supporting your team, because going away in Europe is a, you know, for a team like Newcastle and fans like Newcastle, we haven't had a lot of that of late, have we? And, you know, the cartel, they get to experience it pretty much every season. But for us and other teams to make it into Europe, that adventure, you know, and it's Forest have got it this year, Palace have got it this year. Just go and enjoy it. Go and enjoy the adventure. Spurs as well. Big Right Hand says, Paul, I went back 4 years and watched you rant over the 1-0 defeat to Brentford. Now that's passion. Thanks, matey. Yeah, I remember that game. Steve Bruce had an opportunity to actually, it was when they were still behind closed doors, of course. And we went to Brentford and lost 1-0. Brentford didn't even put a full side out. And were they in the Premier League then? I'm not sure they were. And we lost the game. It was just a dreadful, dreadful performance. And I completely lost the plot in front of my camera that night. As I tended to a lot under Steve Bruce, to be honest. He was not good for anybody's blood pressure. Never mind hosting the channel and trying to talk about the team that you bleed black and white for and you love, and you could see him destroying it every day. There was something happening, which was awful. Ricky, thank you for your super chat. I hope Eddie doesn't play the games for mates card. Big Dan is starting to get exposed at left back, and teams will target this. It's the weak link at the moment. Yes, and it's a very good point to make, because if you notice the way that Union played last night in the second half, they were targeting the left back of Newcastle United. They were coming down that side consistently and giving Dan Burn a very rough time. And if they can identify that problem, guys, you guaranteed that the Premier League sides will identify that as well. And they will start targeting Dan Burn. And it's not fair on Dan. For me, that's not fair on Dan Burn. He should not be put in that situation anyway. We know he's a fantastic centre-back. Nobody is arguing with that. But I don't think it's very fair on Dan himself to put him in that predicament. Because, exposing him like that is a little bit cruel, in my opinion. Yes, 2 years ago, it had to be done, and he did a good job for us at left-back. But 2 years on, things are very, very different now, and that needs to change. Because exposing him, I think, is very, 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 very sad for Dan Burn. Ricky says, Walt 3, the Red Rat 1, and struggling. Indeed. But listen, the media will guarantee to keep using the fitness card for Alexander Isak for weeks to come yet. So even if he doesn't score in the next 6 Premier League games or whatever, you're guaranteed it'll still be down to his fitness. And he didn't have a pre-season. He's this, he's that, he's that. Yeah. Clive says, hi, Paul. Great show as always. I don't like stating negativity towards Nick Pope. For me, he can do his goal kicks okay. His shot stopping is excellent, which to me is more important than being a sweeper keeper. Look, on the Nick Pope situation, right? He played well again last night, and he made some decent saves. I think most of the saves that Nick Pope had to make last night were comfortable, weren't they, in my opinion. However, I think his distribution last night was decent because he threw the ball out a lot. And I think that is, Billy's mentioned that a lot in commentary. Instead of kicking it, just throw it. He's much more accurate with his throws than he is with his feet. But nobody is having any argument over his shot stopper. And he is a world-class shot stopper. And I think he commanded his box really well last night in the time that he had to. The corners that Union put in the first half, in the first 15, 20 minutes, they weren't really Nick Pope's issue. The defenders, where the corners were coming in, that's not where Goalkeeper needs to come out and try and get the ball. They were placed very well, and the defense was a little bit shaky, but we didn't concede, and we didn't concede in the game. So it's another clean sheet for Nick. I think Nick Pope is probably going to be, looking at the start of the season, we all thought that maybe come December time that Ramsdale would start the process into the number one. I'm having second thoughts on that now. If I'm openly honest, I think Nick Pope, for me, will probably be the number one for the rest of the season. And just maybe that they have plans on Ramsdale coming in and then Ramsdale taking over the mantle. I think Nick Pope will move on in the summer. I don't think we'll keep him at the club. I think he'll move on and finish his career elsewhere. But I think Ramsdale will then move into the number one position. Unless something drastically changes with Nick Pope's form and he completely loses it. Now, that is a possibility. There's no doubt about it. Nick Pope can slip in confidence. He can get injured very easily. So I think if Nick Pope does get another injury like he got last year, Ramsdale will come in and stay there. It's very difficult, different to the Dubravka situation. So I think Ramsdale would stay as number one. But if Pope stays fit and doesn't have a terrible form drip, I think that he'll stay there. He'll stay as number one. But whether we agree with that or not is a different kettle of fish. But I do like Ramsdale. I do like what he brings. But Nick Pope so far, yes, he made the error against Arsenal. Eddie then said that is the life of a goalkeeper, and Nick was brilliant up until that point. So you get the feeling that Eddie has had a chat with Nick Pope about that and maybe said, look, Nick, we can't afford you to do that. Despite the fact you made some brilliant saves in that game, that mistake cost us badly, and we can't do that. So I would assume he's had a chat with him. And if Nick Pope continues to do that, then maybe Eddie will lose his patience eventually and say, look, you might be a fantastic shot stopper, but you concede, you're throwing points away down the drain with silly mistakes. Ramsdale, as Yvonne says there, for me, is more comfortable on the ball. Nick Pope, I think, is very panicky when he's on the ball. And that's the difference. I think he's very calm, Ramsdale, and that's possibly because he's been with clubs where they like to get the ball down, they like to play the ball out and involve the goalkeeper in that. Collick says it must be a really strange experience for goalkeepers because you can only have one on the pitch at any time. It's. I mean, for Ramsdale, he's pretty much been a number one for years until he lost his place at Arsenal, of course, to Raya. But then he was number one at Southampton. It didn't go well at Southampton. I don't blame Ramsdale for that. Southampton were awful defensively last season. And, a goalkeeper sometimes is only as good as the defenders in front of him. And they were awful. So I don't really look at Ramsdale and think he's a poor keeper because they went down. Ramsdale is a fabulous goalkeeper and will only improve again with the guidance and training of Eddie Howe. Hell says, is it poor panicky on the ball or just panicking because we know what he can be like? Well, I mean, look, he panicked the other day against Arsenal. For some strange reason, he panicked when he had the ball in his hands. And he thought, I've got to get rid of this quickly. I've got to get us on the attack. And he didn't have to do that. Because, look, I think a point out of Sunday's game would have been an excellent point for Newcastle because we didn't particularly play well in the game. But a point would have been really, really good for Newcastle and get something out of it and at least don't lose the game. But Nick, for some reason, he panicked and he thought we need to get that ball straight down, and we didn't. And I think that was why there was a lot of disappointment. If we were 1-0 down and he tried to do that, I don't think anybody would have had an issue because he's trying to get us on the attack quickly to try and get an equaliser. But it was 1-1. And that's where I think Nick Pope's got to just take a breath, settle things down and not panic on the ball. Is it going to change? I don't know. I don't know how much Nick Pope can change in his game at 33, 34. I don't know how he's going to change his game, and I don't think he will. But I do believe that he's a very good shot stopper and probably will stay as number one for the majority of the season if he stays in form and doesn't get injured. Northern Golfer says that Isak is looking like a lost sheep in the Liverpool team. How many touches did he have? Well, look, I mean, I don't particularly want to talk about Alexander Isak because he's gone and he's not our player anymore. But I do find it funny when Liverpool fans kick off and sort of they're not getting anything out of Isak. And remember, Isak had a lot of help at Newcastle. Sometimes he scored individual goals, like any striker does. But the majority of the time, he has been fed the ball. And he's not getting that at Liverpool at the minute. You know, Salah wants to score goals himself. Gakpo wants to score goals himself. Ekitike wants the goals. You know, but we had players who played alongside him who wanted to provide, like Jacob Murphy, like Gordon, like Barnes. He had the opportunity to be provided with the chances, and he doesn't have that at Liverpool. So we'll see. We'll see how he gets on there. Brian says Pope turns into Michael Flatley when the ball goes to his feet doing the river dance. Yes, and my arse cheeks do exactly the same when I'm commentating and watching him live. Every time he gets the ball, there's a rabbit's nose going on in my underwear because I panic every time he tries to play the ball out because I just don't think he can, and he's not very good at it. But shot stopping is absolutely second to none. Nobody can deny that his reflexes are absolutely bang on, and that's what they need to be. So let's just hope and pray that that continues. Ricky, thanks for another super chat, mate. Isak only ever had an engine for 60, 65 max anyway, even at his fittest. Well, Liverpool will find that out, my man. Liverpool will find that out. And they're not playing very well anyway. 2 league titles in 35 years while spending millions and millions on wages. Yeah, I mean... let them do it. Let them get on with it. Let them get on with it. Because I'm sure Newcastle's, Newcastle is history to Isak. Isak's history to us. Let them get on with it. Matt says Paul's river dancing arse. Tell me your arse doesn't twitch when Nick Pope gets a back pass. Surely I'm not the only one who feels like that when Nick Pope gets a back pass and then he traps the ball and then you can see somebody coming in to press him. Don't tell me nobody panics because of what we've seen from Nick Pope anyway. I honestly believe that every fan feels the same. Fubas is putting it out there. I think Alice is a closet Newcastle fan. Her latest video, she gushes about how good our front three are, and she loves Botman and Chow. Listen, I know we've had Alice on the show, and she's a fantastic, fantastic YouTube channel, okay? And she talks a lot of sense. And it's great to see the fact that she's female as well, doing so well in this sort of media, if you like. I think she speaks really well. Sometimes, though, I do disagree with her. And the fact that she mentioned Eddie Howe the other day, wanting Manchester United to go out and get... I mean, she mentioned Eddie Howe. She mentioned other managers as well. And I think that upset a few Newcastle fans thinking, well, hang on a minute. You know, Eddie's not available. He's a Newcastle manager. What makes you think that Manchester United are going to swoon in and Eddie's going to go to Man United? It's just not going to happen. But then I think she's just talking from the heart. She's a Manchester United fan and she wants the very best for our football club. So she wants the best managers. You know, if remember when Steve Bruce was in charge of Newcastle and we were talking about who we'd like as managers, certainly when the takeover happened, Steve Bruce was still in a job, but we were all saying who's going to take the Newcastle job now because Steve Bruce has only got days left. And that turned out to be the case. But we all want the best for our football clubs. And I think that's what Alice meant in the fact that she wasn't being derogatory to Newcastle. I don't agree that she was. I think she was being very honest about wanting the very best for our football club. But she is very, very complimentary about Newcastle United when we play well. She speaks with a lot of sense as well when it comes to opposition fans talking about our club. And certainly, you know, the way she talks about the front, I've seen that video she did last night, and she spoke a lot of sense. She talks, no, she doesn't, Games Kingdom. She really doesn't talk shit. And I'm not going to have, you know, yes, Alice is a Manchester United fan, but I'm not going to have people come on here slagging her off. She's an excellent content creator. Won numerous awards at the Content Creator Awards in 2024, and deservedly so. I think she's very honest, and she talks very, very, very well about her club and about football in general. So please don't come on here and say things like that because it's a load of crap, quite frankly. She's a very, very good content creator. So let's take a look to see if there's any news reports dropping in. Obviously, the reports now about Tino Livramento are coming in from every outlet possible, which is, it's really sad. Now, the £39 million reason why Eddie Howe is happy after last night. Now, incidentally, Bruno came off, which I think was very interesting for me. Tonali obviously stayed on, but I genuinely, I don't know whether you agree with me, guys, but I genuinely think Tonali has a better engine than Bruno. And that's no disrespect to Bruno or anything like that. I just think when Eddie looks at the situation and he needs to keep an engine on in there, Tonali is the man. He is super fit. He has got a fantastic engine. And I think he has a slightly better engine than what Bruno has for the full 90 minutes of a game. And he proved that last night and almost scored right at the death, of course. It wasn't for an absolutely superb save. Now, it goes on to talk about Harvey Barnes, who endured a really difficult start to the season and handed an incredible opportunity when Gordon picked up a 3-match suspension, but he squandered it. And I agree with that. I do agree that he squandered it. He wasn't good. But last night, I think Eddie Howe has mentioned this. He was very, very pleased when Barnes came on. He got a goal as well, which was a breathtaking move. Absolutely breathtaking move. You know, it started with Anthony Gordon. He set Asula away, and Asula, credit to him, he stayed patient, played in Harvey Barnes. The defender makes a last-ditch bid to dive in and couldn't get there. Barnes finished it off, and it was a really, really good move. And I'm really pleased for Harvey Barnes as well. I was pleased for Gordon because I think that game last night will have done him the world of good. Getting the goals, but not just the goals. It's the performance that we saw from Gordon, especially in the second half, that I think will do him the world of good. And we'll see, hopefully, a huge difference from Anthony Gordon moving forward now. Because we all know wingers are confidence players, and they need that confidence to move forward. And I think with Anthony Gordon, certainly he will get confidence from that game last night. And good for him. And Barnes sticking that in the back of the net will do him the world of good. Asula, look, I've been quoted as saying that I don't think he's a Premier League striker. I've got my worries about him. However, all he can do is prove me wrong, and I hope to God that he does, because he came on last night and did very, very well again. Another assist for him last night. So, hey, everything's looking rosy. But we have to take this now into the Premier League. It is so important that we take it into the Premier League. But, yeah, credit to Harvey Barnes. I think he came on. He was more impactful yesterday than I've seen him in a while. When he's come on as substitute or started the game, he made an impact yesterday, and he was all over the pitch when he came on. So was Asula, so was Gordon. The midfield worked. I don't think Joe Linton's firing in all cylinders yet, guys. I really think that out of all the players, I think Big Joe is still trying to get up to speed. Obviously, he's getting older, Joe Linton, remember. He's not this sort of young 20-odd-year-old anymore. He's getting on. And maybe the physicality is just starting to drain a little bit. I don't know. I think he should have had a penalty last night, no doubt about it. He was crucified when he's going for the header. The defender just clatters him from behind, and he's taking him out. Howe didn't look at that and think that's a penalty. Yet we get a penalty in the second half for something we didn't even appeal for. Incredible the way football works sometimes. Chip is asking if Joe Linton could be injured. I don't think so. I just think listen, he was injured, and he's taken his time to get fit again. He's taken his time to get fit again. And it may take a few weeks, but I don't think fatigue is an issue or anything like that. But just keep an eye on Joe Linton, because I think, you know, the problem for Joe is when Ramsey's fit again, Eddie will want to utilize Ramsey. We've paid a lot of money for Jacob Ramsey. And I think that we're going to need to utilize his strengths. Probably gives us more going forward than Joe. But again, he's got that option, hasn't he? And that's the main thing for us. Most official Liverpool channels don't give the chat rooms the time of day, the real fans. That's disappointing. We will always try and read comments out on here. Obviously, the thing is, when you get a lot of comments coming through, it's very difficult to read them all out, which is why we say that, you know, as a thank you for super chatting the channel, we will guarantee to read your comment out. But if I'm doing a show like this on a morning, I will try and pick a lot of comments up and involve people in it. The chat is there for you and the other fans and us as well. And it's a kind of trying to fit it all in. But if we just sat here reading comments out all show, there wouldn't be a show. But that's the thing for me. We try and include everybody, and that's why we say we've got a really wonderful community here on the Toon Review. Laura, thank you for your super chat. Paul Tonali's the engine, Bruno's the driver, and Joe Linton the conductor. Excellent content as always. Do you know what? I'll agree with that. Absolutely. No problem at all in saying that. I think that the midfield three are very, very crucial, but I do think getting Ramsey back is going to be a big plus point. Miley's performance again when he came on last night was excellent, and he's been excellent all the time. He's really come on leaps and bounds again. And the last few games I've seen Miley, he's been fantastic. So again, positives for Eddie. Richard said, why is Eddie Howe still putting Dan Burn at left back? Hopefully Hall will be there against Forest, but I have worries that Eddie Howe will keep Burn there. He can't once Hall's fit. You cannot leave Lewis Hall out at left back for Dan Burn. You can't. And I think it is going to be a very, very tough decision for Eddie Howe, but a decision that he has to make. And for, finally, he's going to have to show some balls and drop some of his favorite players that have done it for him in the past. But that's exactly what it is. It's the past. And he can't now keep doing it. The past is the past. He now needs to look forward and play his very best players to make Newcastle successful. If he doesn't, I think that will be his downfall. And I think that's what a lot of Newcastle fans think as well. If he keeps playing his favourites to the detriment of the team, then I think we're in trouble. However, I don't think he will. I think he will eventually realise and have to drop Dan Burn, because there's no way he can leave Chow and Botman out. There's no way that he can leave somebody as talented as Lewis Hall out. So let's just see what happens. Certainly from Forest, I think Forest is a big decision. I think Dan Burn needs resting anyway. I think he looked absolutely knackered last night. So I think he needs resting, and Lewis Hall needs to start the game. We will see. But there you go, folks. That is your morning news. Thank you very much. Quite a few of you's in this morning. It is getting popular. Thank you very much for your support on these morning shows. I really do enjoy doing them. It's a good conversation, looking at the latest headlines and things like that. So as long as you keep enjoying them, guys, the breakfast show will be here for the future. Thank you for your super chats and memberships. And thank you, mods, those of you that were in this morning. And we're back again tonight, 7 o'clock, where we've got the full review of the game, of course, and the player ratings as well. I think it's me and Billy tonight. Alex has badminton on a Thursday, so I think it'll just be me and Billy. Sam will be back tomorrow night, of course, for the preview of the Forest game. But that is it for now. If there's any news breaks during the day, I will bring you a video, of course, keep you updated. But until tonight, have a fantastic day, folks, and we'll see you soon. Take care.
Come back and check on some green.